Hello, everyone. Welcome to Inside News with Dale Matthews and Mike Jones. I'm the Dale Matthews side of it, and here's the Mike Jones side of it. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Dale. What's going on today?
Well,
Seems like
a repetitive day. It does a little bit. I got back from a meeting of LIPSIC. See, what did I hear? I got back from a LIPSIC meeting. It's Local Public Safety Coordinating Committee. And it is made up of all of the law enforcement types that are only officials now, no citizens, from around in the area, except maybe for Gary Berlant, who represents, he's a public defender. And so we pretty much called this ahead of time. That's one of the things that we do to keep you ahead of the curve. And that we anticipated that this would be like shooting ducks in a barrel, fishing. Anyway, it came out the way that we thought that it would. Keith Heck asked for a special meeting of LIPSIC, Local Public Safety Coordinating Committee, to consider whether or not Cheryl Walker's full of beans. Now, they're not going to ask citizens this. We already know that. There were some candidates in the room, a couple other citizens that care about local politics. And so the basic question was, are we currently in a fiscal emergency so much that we need to call down the governor to take immediate action? Now, some of the people that were there were Diane Hoover, the health department, whatever. Arthur O'Hare, the finance director, Local Public Safety Coordinating Committee. I don't know why. Darren Fowler, the mayor of Grants Pass. Is somebody Goodwin, who's a city councilor. He's also a county employee.
James.
That's lovely. James Goodwin. Lovely. He's also a county employee.
Listen. There is one thing that all these people have in common, and that's they're all on the public payroll. And they are part of the population that probably votes 100% without any exclusions for any levy or any public funding measure coming down the pike. So
what do you think they're going to
the fact that all these guys are on? Yeah, right.
Right. So, and also the sheriff was there, and Bill Landis, the chief of police for Grants Pass, and the mayor, Darren Fowler, was there. Judge Lindy Baker was there. They're all pretty much in agreement that we're currently in a fiscal emergency. As a matter of fact, as Darren Fowler said, we have been for several years. It's an emergency. It's an emergency and has been for years. Really. It's funny because the city council had this emergency as their third issue after more funding for a park. But that's the logic they're using. They came to the conclusion that based on what Arthur O'Hare told them, the finance director for the county, that, well, we're not going to get any more SRS payments. That's done. That's done. That's over. Why are you even asking? It's over. Why there's no conversations in Washington, D.C., how would these people know about any of that?
Right. And as I said before, I'd like to see some documentation on that. I understand that this is an easy way for these guys to play this because then later, if SRS money does come in, they go, oh, look, they gave us some more money. Which is, of course, going to be on top of the money that they're going to get from us out of this deal.
Well, do you remember in 2000, the world was going to end? And then wasn't it 2003 and again in 2008 and again? The whole world was going to end. And then when it didn't end, for some of those apocalypse people, they said, oh, look, I guess our prayers made the difference. Yeah, well, yeah, that's sure what did it, all right. That's why you never see rabbits wearing glasses. So it was suggested during this meeting, despite what Arthur O'Hare was telling him is, look, this is it. No more SRS payments. That's all. That's it. Keith Heck was the one that called this meeting. And he was pretty adamant about the fact that these guys need to come to the conclusion that it is currently a fiscal emergency. Now, somebody in the audience, God bless him, said, well, maybe there should be two votes. Hmm. Is it currently an emergency? And if we get absolutely no money in it of any kind, would it be an emergency? You know, I might even go along with the second idea. If there was absolutely no money, you know, and cats and dogs were living together, and you know, all of the apocalyptic talk was really happening, you might have to admit. But no. Darren Fowler especially was totally against the idea. This is a guy that's going to be running in November to be the mayor again. He was totally against the idea of having two votes, because what if the LPSC group said, Local Public Safety Coordinating Committee, what if they said it's not currently emergency? Oh, you can't have anybody logical or common sense like that. I looked back at Raymond Smith, who was there, and we just exchanged glances like, uh-huh. Don't you know? Just like when I was looking at you, Mike, when we were in the courtroom and the judge says there's no such thing as permanent, I looked at you like, we might as well just go home now. So they weren't going to tolerate the idea of taking two votes. It has to be one. Are we currently in an emergency, and or are we facing one in the near future? It was unanimous.
Right. Well, naturally. You know what? While you're talking about that, I just went and looked up. This is the USDA, is apparently where Secure Rural Schools comes from. Secure Rural Schools Act reauthorized for 2 years on April 16, 2015. And it goes on to talk about that and you know what it means, and how it will benefit 41 states in the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. I bet.
I didn't.
And then it goes payment and timing for Title I and Title III funds, Title II funds, funding amount under section blah, 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 county elections, reduction made under 1908 in fiscal year 2015, and that reads, before the SRS Act was reauthorized on April 16, 2015, the 1908 Act requiring 25% payments governed the distribution of payments to states for fiscal year 2014 and 2015. The Forest Service made 25% payments to states under the 1908 Act in February of 2015. That's all that says. Okay, then it goes on Title 2 and 3 deadlines. And it says, let's see here, the deadline for the secretary concerned to obligate the Title II funds for the county to obligate Title III funds has been extended to September 30th of 2018. And then they talk about sequestration, and then that's it. They don't mention the end. You know, this is what we're getting from them. And what I want to see documentation of the end. I understand that they have told federal government officials, both senators and congressmen, do not tell us about SRS, because
don't tell the public.
Don't tell the public about SRS, because if they know about SRS, we won't be able to get the things done that we need to get done.
They have said that.
Yeah, they have said that. Yeah, and so deceit is central to these people and how they operate, which is why
I don't have any problem if somebody wants to back the idea of law enforcement. I want law enforcement, but don't lie to us to get your way. Don't do that.
Well, and this is why people don't trust them, and it's also why, them doing this. This is like the nuclear thing, in Congress when you just you go nuclear, and that's what they're doing here, and so trust. Are we going to trust these people again? Hey, oh no, we're going to get rid of these guys. These guys are all going to be put on a list. Every single one of the people who raised their hand the 100%, they're all going to be on a list. You're gone. Okay. We're going to make sure you're gone. We're going to,
well, somebody in the audience
somebody
in the audience said, well, will there be any time for any public comments? And Diane Hoover looks at this. She says, well, the agenda doesn't have anything where it says public comments. Of course, this is a board.
Right.
But and so Garrett Berlant says, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Garrett Berlant says, well, I don't ever recall that happening. And Mayor Darren Fowler said, well, maybe we should consider that at the next meeting. And it looked like they were going to take a vote on whether they were consider that at the next meeting. But then I said, no, wait a minute. Taking a vote on this issue isn't on the agenda either.
Yeah.
So they didn't take a vote about whether they'd ever allow anyone from the public. And there's lots of things we could have said. If I'd gotten a chance, I would have said, upon what are you basing this idea that we're definitely not going to get any money? You have no idea. I mean, my guess is as good as your guess, not as good as Mike's guess, but nobody knows. Nobody knows. And so you're going to say it's definitely not going to happen? How are you doing that?
Right. And the, this quantifying an emergency, we know for a fact that is purely anecdotal.
Yes. And Keith Heck wanted them to say what defines an acceptable level, but they would not do it. They just wouldn't do it. They just kept dancing around that. And every time it came up, they just got slippery again and just moved away. So there wasn't any way for them to say this. So what are they going to do next? What they're going to do is they're going to get together with Herman Bertschiger. There's no consensus in this county. They're going to get together with about anything. Well, let's go around the county and we'll find out how much people want to pay. I'll give you the answer. No more. Okay. Yeah. But, no, there's no consensus. Yeah. What vote? They're going to talk with Carl Wilson, and they're going to talk with Dwayne Stark, because that's really important for Josephine County, and they're going to get them to come on board. Well, gee, what do you think's going to happen? And then they're going to ask them, these brave people, to go to the governor.
You know what? Listen, I'm going to take this opportunity to congratulate these guys that you finally found the way around. You finally did it. You finally circumvented the citizens entirely. And I guess since you've been working on this so long, congratulations are in order. We can probably find you at the Wonderburr slamming back a few in celebration.
Well, the mayors at the city council meeting, I'm here with you, Mike, but the mayors of the city council meeting, chortling with joy, I'm sure, because he finally got what he wanted. We're not going to have any more votes. We're not going to talk with the people. And he said again at this meeting, if this isn't done now, why, then we'd have new commissioners coming in. You can't have that, because they would be elected by the people to replace these bad apples, and they might not want to do this. He didn't quite put it that way. So we need to do this right now.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's time to get rid of these people.
Commissioners. Oh, yeah, it's time to get rid of the mayor, too, but they've got to wait till November for that. So this is over my shoulder, because what happened yesterday at the weekly business session was a little bit smaller than the previous two meetings, but people got up and spoke, and then commissioners had things to say, and it was pretty entertaining in one way, in that Keith Heck has given an interview to the newspaper, to the Courier, saying that he wants to restore civility back to meetings. And then what he did yesterday was he jumped all over at least one citizen, me, and started saying all kinds of negative things and got all upset and all the rest of it. Cheryl Walker says, oh, no, we're not going to do this. And then she did exactly the same thing. So there's your restoring civility. He's decided, Mike, I don't think he's going to come to the candidates forum on Friday.
No, I spoke to him today. I spoke to him today at the weekly business session, and I asked him if he had received the emails, and he said that he did, and he was not planning to attend. I didn't ask him why. I pretty well figure why. And listen, In this respect, as it relates to this, I'm letting people that want to opt out for that reason off the hook. You know what? They'll get their scrutiny. This
They'll get screwed. They'll get screwed.
They'll no, you know what I said. The bottom line is that this thing on Friday is an opportunity for candidates to come and tell what they're about. And I suggest they take full advantage of the time instead of, trying to dig into somebody else's politics to tell us why we need to vote for you.
Exactly. Explain your answers.
Right. Exactly. And so, listen, I think everybody, of the current establishment crop, should be looked at with some skepticism this go round, and that's probably what will happen. I mean, it's happening already here, so I'm not too worried about that. I think for the most part, most of the elected officials who are up for re-election, who are jumping in on this thing to rip our sovereignty away, are going to pay for it. And, by not being reelected. So,
yeah. Oh, just one other thing before we go to some of the footage of people speaking. We take a risk every single night on this show. I mean, you guys, you never say any solutions. You never watch the show. Okay, so this is a little bit risky, but we've seen that happen with Mike before when he showed us the shots of his colonoscopy. That was risky. Okay, so inside news. So, Mike, We've mentioned this kind of stuff many times, but I believe, here's the risk, that there are 7 solutions.
To leave your lover?
Yes, 7 ways.
Oh, no, that's 50. I forgot.
That we could potentially help out the sheriff if it's truly an emergency. Okay, so one of them is we've got, I'm not even talking about SRS money, okay? One of them is we've got payments in lieu of taxes. That comes in, and it's somewhere around, I think, $400,000 at the moment. That goes into the general fund. My understanding is that could go to the sheriff. That's a bit of money. Arthur O'Hare said at this meeting today, he said, well, that's not a lot of money. You start adding these things together, and it does end up being a lot of money. Plus, this one of the things we learned at this meeting is Cheryl had said she could do this all by herself. Well, the DA says, no, she can't. It's got to be 2 commissioners. Cheryl, where did you get that information? And number 2, it's been said that, I'm getting confused with my numbers, 1 and 2. Okay, and the other thing is she can't do it all by herself, and the other one's going to come back to me. And so there are 7 ways, there are 7 ways we could do this. One's payment in lieu of taxes, okay? Another one is, jump in here anytime, Mike. Another one is we have
it's your list.
Emergency road funds. But we've talked about it on the show a dozen times, more than that. Emergency road funds that could potentially be spent, and we've done it in the past, not just on roads, but also on the sheriff. We could put them into a big fund called the roads fund, emergency fund, and it could go to wherever the emergency is. We learned today
economic development money,
right? Economic development money that came in. Another thing we learned today is Arthur O'Hare is now saying we have $2 million left in the roads fund. When we first heard about this, less than a year ago, it was 8, then it was 6, then it was 4, and now it's 2. We're hemorrhaging money.
Yeah, or something. You know
Where's
what?
all that money going?
They might be being purposely vague about the specificity in that account.
Well, he was pretty specific today. He said, once again, $2 million. Now, wait a minute. Arthur O'Hare, are you a big, fat liar? What? I don't know. But what happened to all that money? He's not explaining that. Okay, all right. Yeah. So another one is, if it was an emergency, like in any emergency where there's a fire or something, you take some personnel during the emergency and you loan them over to the Emergency Operations Center. There are people that can answer the telephone. You loan them to the sheriff. Don't fire them. Loan them to the sheriff and say, here you go. Now you can take people, because he said people are answering the phones and he can't put them on the road. Now you can take people who could be on the road and put them on the road. Because you've got lone people, because it's an emergency. Remember? The 5-cent levy.
I like the firearm idea.
Okay. I know, but we still have to live with a union, whether we like it or not. Okay, and you know what I mean. He lives in a union, and he knows what I mean. So a different kind of union, wedded bliss. Also, there's a 5-cent levy that's on the ballot. It's going to be on the ballot. You get to decide whether they want to hire retired police officers that are trained, right? They're trained. They're going to run through the sheriff's office. Oh, but they're not trained enough to put out on the road. Really? You're putting them in there with the kids, and they're poorly trained,
right?
Or they were poorly trained.
Yeah. What is that?
I don't think so. And we can get 6 of them for less than $200,000. Let's do that. Somebody mentioned to the sheriff, I think it was, at this meeting afterwards, of course, not during, because you can't have that. You're not going to have any comments from citizens. Hey, why don't we do that? Why don't we just at least have them patrolling around, and have a presence?
Well,
no, you can't have a presence because that would deter crime.
Right. And listen, what you always hear, when we were talking about, taking a certain amount of money and hiring some deputies, and they say, well, it takes a year to train them. Well, apparently they're not planning on doing that year of training for these retired people that they're going to put in the schools. Sounds like that's something they're going to pull the trigger on and have happening right away. So let me ask. Is the requirement that they go for a year of training, is that some union requirement? Is that some state requirement? And if it is a state requirement or a union requirement, how are they getting by that on these retired people?
Because it's just kids. And who cares if they're trained for kids, right? Because, what do you care?
Okay.
No, that doesn't make any sense.
I would like to hear a solid answer on that. Because somewhere somebody's blowing some smoke.
Oh, I figured out what the second one was. Remember how Cheryl Walker sang, and the other two have been saying this too. Well, we're going to do it twice. We're going to get a year and a half from the governor, and then we're going to get another year and a half. And then the DA says, no, we only get 1 year and a half. Now, wait a minute. If it takes a year to train somebody, and we only get a year and a half out of it, even the DA said to the sheriff at this meeting, of course, he still voted for the idea because it is an emergency, you're going to get 6 months of work out of them. And then what are you going to do? Get rid of them? See, it's like being at a budget meeting.
Yeah.
They say all this stuff, and then they well, yeah, that's a good question. And then they still vote for it.
They just want the money. This is going to be very interesting to see the whole thing play out because apparently we are merely spectators on this now. And we're just riding the roller coaster and somebody else is out in front of us building the tracks.
There are two people that are leading that push to 3 people now. The head of SOS, who works for the city, Mayor Darren Fowler, who does not want any more votes, and neither does the head of SOS, and Cheryl Walker. She's had it up to here with votes. This is not the America that I know. No more votes.
Right.
The other 2 commissioners kind of go along with it. So there's your 7 things. So anyway, if somebody says to you, and I said this on an earlier show, if somebody says to you, well, where are your solutions? There's 7 of them. We had 6, and now we've got 7 when you add in PILT, payments in lieu of taxes. And Mike's right, economic development money. So we've talked about that. So
and then there's the big solution that they're not even interested in doing, where you start to open a dialogue with the federal government and say, hey, guys, you got an obligation. I had this little back and forth with somebody on Facebook there last night about this topic. And it's like, well, you're never going to get that done. You start a lawsuit and then 5 years down the road, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah. Well, we could have started it 10 years ago. But we decided when
Simon Hare was elected. When he was elected saying, I know everybody in Washington, D.C., I'm going to push for this thing. 5 years later, he's commissioner, and maybe somebody has some respect for him. Not now.
Right, but the bottom line is that none of our commissioners have decided to go down that road. And the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And if you're unwilling to take that step, you're never ever going to arrive at your destination. You're just never gonna. It's never going to happen. And so it clearly has this idea of pursuing those funds, because listen,
it's not a tax.
How the economy was set up here. No, it isn't. Our economy was set up here in a particular framework, and they said, okay, here's the framework. And we said, oh, okay. And then they ripped the rug out from under us. So either we go whole hog on the marijuana economy and it rescues us, from oblivion, which I don't think anybody has that illusion. Or at least not all of us do. Then, there has to be other things. Now, most of our county is locked up in terms of, the property that's in the county is owned by the federal government. And so we get very little in the way of tax money from that. So basically when you remove their legal obligation to pay us money, which to my knowledge, the 1937 O&C Act has not been rescinded. So that being the case, that is active law. Okay. And that law dictates that they are to harvest on a sustainable basis and split the funds with the O&C counties 50-50. Okay. So they're not doing that. I think it's appropriate to hold them accountable, whether or not you think that you can beat Goliath in the battle or not. It's your obligation to pursue that, because if all of a sudden they went back and started honoring their contract, all of these issues would go away. But nobody's interested in that, because you can't beat Goliath. Don't ever think of that. Well, somebody thought of beating Goliath, and it was David, and he beat the guy. So
we're doing it on a nightly basis.
Attempt to do it.
We're taking on the Daily Courier and all the television stations on a nightly basis. And who are we? We're just a couple of very talented guys. No, we're just a couple of guys, and we do it.
Yeah, right.
And we occupy permanent space in the commissioners' heads.
Well, how many people in this Southern Oregon area, how many politicians could you count? And I bet it doesn't even fill up one hand that is doing the right thing for their county in respect to these the O&C monies.
Yeah.
So they've decided that the only route is to tax their people. Well, the other day, this weekend, my wife was telling me about some house in the downtown area that is, was full of drug addicts and whatever. And they went through great pains to try and evict those people out of there. And somebody bought the place and is trying to clean it up and all that kind of stuff. So she wanted to see where this area was. And I drove down there and I thought, this is probably the poorest part of Grants Pass. These are all of these homes. There's homes that are probably, 700-800 square feet. I mean, these are dinky little places. These are the people that you're going to saddle with a whole bunch more property tax. They're already paying District 7 taxes right now. And you add to that, you add a dollar per thousand or $2 per thousand to that. These people are, they're on the edge right now.
So, but we hear from people at SOS. We've heard from people like the mayor. We've heard from people like Dan DeYoung. Well, I'd be willing to pay twice as much taxes. So why don't you?
Yeah, why don't you do it?
4% of the public do that, and then we'd be okay, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I'm telling you, some talking point memo went out here the other day about because I've only heard it in like the last couple of months, and now they're all saying it. It's like the 47%. What about the 47% who voted for such and such? What do they get? I'll tell you what they get. Nothing.
That's right.
That's how
America.
it works in this country. If we were going to do that, Cheryl Walker
would no longer be anything.
Yeah, that's right.
62 votes.
She
62
won by 60. That's not enough of a win. You need to give it to the other guy. Really? Is that how we do it? Well, if that's how we do it, why don't you lead by example, you people who keep citing that,
They're not happy because they keep losing. And so, what's happening in schools these days? Well, we didn't win. We've never won a football game in 20 years. So we're automatically declared the victors for the next few years without even playing. That's not America.
Yeah, I mean, the point is that what you observed at this Leipzig meeting here is, what happens when people get the gonads to exercise tyranny out in the open. And that's what took place there, because you completely circumvented the people.
The number one pusher for it, number one pusher was not Keith Heck. It was Darren Fowler, the mayor.
Oh, I'm not surprised about that. That's been his ball game. But the bottom line, and Cheryl's always quoting the Constitution, of the people, by the people, for the people, where the people better damn well pay for it.
That's what she says. Hey, the devil can quote the Bible.
Yeah.
So,
but that's not that isn't what the Constitution says. I defy you to find in there where it says that if the people want such and such, the people better damn well pay for it. Show me where it says that. I just think, these people, they're going further and further away from we are of the people, by the people, for the people. But those people are their own special class. They can't win. They haven't been able to get it. They have not been able to get consent from us to do this. And so now they're going to bypass our consent. They don't care what we think. It's time, because those people are too stupid to understand how bad of a situation that we're in. I mean, my PERS is really underfunded here. I mean, when are you guys going to get that this is really an emergency?
hey, we've told you how to vote, and you're not obeying.
Right. Yeah.
This is what's at stake in this upcoming election. Pick your two people very carefully. If you find somebody that's on the borderline, don't vote for them. Not this time. Well, I like that person because I like her hair. Don't vote that way. You've got to pick two very strong people who are going to put you first. You really need to do that. We can't screw around this time. Not this time. Maybe next time. Well, okay. We only have time for
not next time either. Thanks.
From today's weekly business session, one person, and I vote for the one guy that spoke in favor of Cheryl Walker. He's never been at a county commissioners meeting before. He was speaking way too fast, way too fast, but he was trying to get a lot of stuff in, okay? Afterwards, I congratulated him on coming up and speaking at all. I said it was a little too fast, but I like to see new people at these meetings, even if I disagree with them. Certainly nobody would congratulate any of us, but that's just the difference between us and them. Here's the guy. Here's what he had to say. Sorry, I can't remember.
And by the way, before you go, that guy, after the meeting was over, was one of the ones who were citing the 47 or 48% and when they're going to get theirs.
Oh, my. That's nice. Well, here he is in all of his glory.
Good morning. Adjust this a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you all. I've never come before the Board of County Commissioners before. My name is Greg Walter, and my wife and I have Jefferson State Financial Group out in Cave Junction, Oregon. And so I'm just going to read you the letter. I'll be glad to give you guys copies of the letters. and we'll just kind of go from there. This is a letter from our business in Cave Junction that has witnessed around us the unending crime spree, including our own residents, who for the past 3 years has been an endless digression with so many businesses broken into, vandalized, and burglarized. This has occurred not only on our churches, our schools, our family resource center, and our library here. These learning centers and community centers are being assaulted to the point where kids are unsure of their safety, including places like Jubilee Park. People wonder who will get hit next, causing a mental trauma in all sectors of our community.
Mental trauma.
It also has affected our commerce and psychologically affects how we conduct our business lives, wondering when we will suffer from this crime spree and the preventative measures we are forced to take. There is a cost associated with this, both direct and indirect, that exceeds what we would otherwise pay if our tax rate was higher. Therefore, I want to thank and support Commissioner Walker and Commissioner Heck and Commissioner Heck for bringing this to the forefront and stepping forward on requesting help from the state found in the provisions of Law 753, House Bill 3453, to declare an emergency within the county and bring assistance in law enforcement for an 18-month duration. This is a short-term solution, and though many seem wary of having a stronger police presence out here in the county,
No, they're not.
will catch the speeders and the like and not go after the criminals that are
That's
causing
not
so
the
many
problem.
problems here. We are left with little choice at this time other than working closely with the police to effect the greatest impact. This will also involve the strengthening of our citizens patrols and serve as the point people that know who is causing the criminal activity here, but they need backup from law enforcement to finish the task at hand. Once again, these are short-term solutions without a doubt that require longer-term solutions. And also, just really quick, this is a call for everybody in the room to volunteer, to help out with the CJ patrols, the Cave Junction patrols. I have Jim Evans' phone number out there, and so we need help, plain and simple. And then just on this last piece, basically our reliance on an increase of timber harvest to pay for our public safety will not bring the desired results until they reinstate or unfreeze the timber harvest tax, and the forest management follows the full intent of that ONC Act and the applicable laws that protect watersheds, carbon storage, and overall forest health. These are values that are now calculable, that's a tricky word, and can no longer be ignored. These lawsuits can also be costly and in the end go nowhere, leaving us right back to where we are currently with no public safety and no jail space available. Our businesses, families, and children deserve better, and the community would prosper, which in turn increases commerce if we get the needed help. We are a gateway community to an expanded national monument, and our visitor appeal and safety should be held in the highest regard, and everyone in the region would benefit from this. Please let me know how I can be of further assistance in moving this forward, and if a broader constituency needs to be brought into this, I want to help. And I want to thank you for all sincerity, our kids and community in Cave Junction. Thank you.
Yeah, he could have gone on for a half hour.
He said it as quickly as possible, and now we all understand what he was trying to say.
Yeah. He could have gone on for a half an hour and they would have let him probably. Listen, I'm wondering why, if things are so bad down there, and I don't mean to denigrate, what your perception of what's going on down there, but he was imploring people in Grants Pass to help out with the Cave Junction citizen patrols. I thought they were fed up down there. Why is there a shortage of people in Cave Junction to be on these citizen patrols? How come, back in the day, the sheriff used to go out and round up a posse and everybody'd leave whatever it was they were doing and take off and take care of that. So I'm just wondering why, and I had heard that they have armed citizen patrols going around. How come they're not doing that to alleviate this situation?
That's not what he's talking about. I know that's
critical.
I know that's what he said, but what he's really talking about, in my opinion, is why aren't you paying more in taxes? That's the only thing that we want you to do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
and we're not happy with we keep losing the vote, and therefore we're going to stop giving you the opportunity. Because there won't be any more votes. We're just going to tell you and if you're lucky, we'll tell you what we're doing. As Keith Heck said, it's none of your business what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We're just not going to explain it. That's why we don't answer your questions anymore. Because they don't like what people are saying. So, well, that's all the time we have tonight. Sometimes people say, well, are you going to run out of subjects? Are you kidding me? It's increasing. There's stuff we can't show you because we're running out of time all the time.
Nattering nabobs always have, plenty of nattering to do. So
of negativity, we're the noise that destroys,
Yeah, there we go. Yes, we're the nattering nabobs of negativity, and you know
what happened to that guy? He got indicted. The Attorney General of the United States that got indicted.
Nattering.
Nice. Well,
hey, listen, before you go,
our legal counsel was at that meeting today. There you go.
Now listen, before we go, Friday night.
Is there something happening Friday night?
It's going to be, we'll probably have a lesser number of candidates. I think it's 10 now, than the total. Yeah, right. Exactly. No, it's going to be fine. That's more than an hour of candidates talking about what they're going to do. And that doesn't include the question and answer period. So it's 10 is plenty. But bottom line, Cave Junction building, 5 to 8. We'll probably start. We'll probably start the show actually around 5:30, and it allows a few more people to get there. So if you're in that area, or even if you're not, and you want to see the candidates and hear what they have to say, please come by and support us in our activity here.
And you can watch it here live, or you can watch it replayed later, and we'll have great camera work. Really good audio, and Mike's running the whole show, and therefore it's going to be completely fair as you can count on Mike to be.
Yeah, well, that some people might not think I'm that fair, but judge for yourself this Friday night whether or not I'm fair with people. I think you'll find I am,
and whether everybody else is well behaved or not. Why, I'm going to be well behaved. Okay, we'll see. Thank you for your participation. Thanks for watching this tonight. Glad we could tell you part of what's going on. It's kind of predictable sometimes, but we're happy to share it with you. We're privileged to bring it to you, not exactly happy about what's going on, but we're working on solutions. Cool.